What's going on, everyone? So the Lakers have officially fallen 2 games under 500. They are now sitting at 3-5 on the season, which is not the start that we had hoped, not the start that we had expected. And they are 0-5 on the road. That is atrocious. Seriously. You got to win games on the road, especially if you want to be a contender. But the Lakers starters have been terrible, right? Every game, we're getting smacked in the first quarter. Games are essentially over midway through the second. Even the games that we might tie the first quarter, or even the one game in which we won the first quarter, by halftime we're down again, right? And Lakers are digging just these ridiculous holes that are just have been more times than not unable to be dug out of, right? You're unable to get out of that hole. And I just think at this point, it's time to look to change the starters. I get the idea of, hey, right? We have a bunch of guys missing. So, might as well just kind of keep it the way things are right now. And then once everyone comes back, try to navigate that and figure that out. But we don't know when Vando's coming back. AD should hopefully be back for the Suns game, but Gabe Vincent's still, a week or two away. And I also do understand the idea of hey, we don't have Jared Vanderbilt, right? So whenever Jared Vanderbilt comes back, maybe this looks better, right? That was the unit that led us to the conference finals. I get that. But the reality is, at least for right now, maybe when Vando comes back, maybe you can change it back for a couple games and see how it looks. But I think, personally, I think it's time to change the starters. Now, it's tough right now because we are very limited without Anthony Davis and without Jackson Hayes and Jared Vanderbilt and Gabe Vincent. But we can't play D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves together. We just can't. They're not athletic enough to be a good front court or be a good backcourt. They're not consistently both being impactful and effective, right? D'Lo had a great game. 9 of 18 from the field, 4 of 7 from 3, 3 blocks, 1 turnover, 22 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists. Let me rephrase that. D'Lo had a good third quarter because he scored 15 in the third, right? But he gave you 22 is the point. But Reeves, 2 of 9 from the field, 0 of 4 from 3, 7 points, 1 rebound, 4 assists, 2 steals, 2 turnovers, right? And he has not looked good outside of 2 games this year, and we have played 8. So far, Reeves has had 2 good games and 6 terrible games, and D'Lo's kind of been a bit inconsistent. But it's because both of these guys are very similar, right? Both of these guys kind of need the ball in their hands. Both of the guys kind of, are good in spots off the ball, right? But they both want to kind of create for themselves and kind of create for others, right? But Austin Reeves has kind of been more, he's been more aggressive, which is fine, but it's not translating, right? He's been bad. And he's not sharing the basketball and passing the basketball, which I think is weird because a big point of emphasis this offseason was that he wanted to play more on the ball and have more playmaking duties. And the Lakers wanted to oblige that, right? And Reeves is not really doing that. He's doing the opposite, right? And it's hurting the team to a point where it's we got to make some change to our backcourt. I think that's the first place to start. Now, personally, I think once Vando comes back, and I've mentioned this before, I think the Lakers should go with D'Angelo Russell, Taurean Prince, Jared Vanderbilt, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis, right? That gives you a nice balance of offense, shooting. You still got playmaking with D'Angelo Russell and his ability to just create for others, run the pick and roll, all of that stuff. You have LeBron James who can handle those duties too in spots if need be. You're not losing shooting because that's the concern. If you move Reeves to the bench, although it's not translating well right now, but the idea is he could be a guy that, can hit the open 3, and if he gets back to normal, he could be a 40% 3-point shooter. Well, Taurean Prince still maintains that three-point shooting. You get more size, better defense, because that's the problem too. Like, D'Lo's been solid defensively, but he's not like Jared Vanderbilt defensively. So he's like okay, right? Like, he's good, he's serviceable. But Austin Reaves has been basically an open door on the defensive side. I mean, he's been atrocious, and teams are targeting him and going after him because they know he's that bad. And it's not working out from a defensive side. And then when you don't have Anthony Davis, you get what you got in the Rockets game, which is just a free lane to the basket every play. And that's becoming a problem. Where I also think you go with Reaves, because one, I think Reaves going to the bench. But I think Reaves going to the bench, I think he'll give you the same production and the same output as he would with the starters, because for him, it's just kind of about the minutes. And we've seen him give you the same production off the bench. 2, I think he's better as a gap player. 3, I think he would handle it better, right? Where D'Lo, I think, would kind of take it a little the wrong way. And 4 is D'Lo's just the better playmaker, so he should be the starter. D'Lo's the better passer, he's the better playmaker, and he's one of the guys that can go get you 30 and go get you 8 assists, which we've seen him do, right? And maybe with Reaves out of the lineup, you can put the ball in D'Lo's hands more, at least in the starting unit, and that might get him more consistent. Because now he can kind of go and just be the point guard, which he's really good at when that happens. Like, more times than not, when the Lakers just let D'Lo play point guard, the Lakers have success. Whether it's him hitting a shot or it's him making a pass, a nice play, running the pick and roll, or, hitting a cutter or whatever, right? I just think Austin Reaves personally makes the most sense to move to that 6-man role. And I just think the Lakers need to do it now and get it done sooner rather than later, right? And also, look at it like this. Let's say Austin Reaves does turn it around and he does get back to being, him, and he does it consistently. Do you know how much better that would make our bench? Like, we would be ridiculous if he could get back to being that, 15 to 18 point a game guy, shooting 40% from 3 and 50% from the field, nearly 50, 40, 90. Like, if he could get back to that and be that 6-man or like that guy off the bench, and you could still close with him over D'Lo if you wanted, right? But it would also allow Reaves to kind of be Reaves more, right? Like, you bring him off the bench and you have him run with the bench unit. So you have a bench unit of let's say Gabe Vincent, assuming everyone's healthy, right? We have Gabe Vincent, Austin Reaves, Rui Hachimura, Christian Wood, and Jackson Hayes. I think that is a great unit for Reaves to kind of, 1, be Reaves, and 2, he can kind of be a playmaker. And when he is having those weird, awkward, just fumble in the bag type games, it's not as detrimental, right? It's not as impactful. It's not like he's going to be doing it in crazy key moments, and you can sit him, right? I mean, part of it is we need our guys back, but part of it is just the guys that we do have are not playing with the passion, the energy, and the effort. That's a problem. And I just think you also would have Rui and Austin Reaves' relationship and connection, right? Like, they usually play pretty good together when they're on the court, right? So you can kind of build that dynamic. And I just think you'd have a much better balanced starting 5, but also a much better balanced bench unit. And like I said, that opens up so much more for D'Lo. That allows D'Lo to kind of shine and thrive more with the starters, because he wouldn't be playing off the ball as much, because he wouldn't have Austin Reaves, who, he needs his fair share of touches and his fair share of playmaking and his fair share of shot attempts and all that stuff, right? So you could kind of let D'Lo be D'Lo a little more, which would, 1, I think, boost his confidence. 2, give him a more defined role, because that seems to be the problem. And I mean, even D'Lo publicly has talked about that. He doesn't really know what his role is with the Lakers, and that kind of seems to be the case with a lot of the guys. Again, part of it, I believe, is we have a bunch of injuries. So you have a bunch of guys that are playing roles that they wouldn't otherwise, right? Like Cam Reddish. Like, how much is Cam Reddish feasibly playing once Vando and everyone comes back? I mean, there was a real talk that, like, he might not play at all. And now he's playing, 25 to 30 minutes a game because we don't have a choice. Like Max Christie, right? Like, he looks like a guy that still needs a year or two to develop, right? Like, defensively he's been solid, but like offensively he's not hitting shots, right? Like, but again, we got to rely on him some more. So now he's playing 25 minutes a game. Like, if everyone gets healthy, yes, I think that that'll help a lot too. But I also think, like, you need to find a better balance. And right now, that balance isn't working out because we're too reliant on guys that are more rhythm guys, right? Like, D'Lo, I talk about this all the time. Like, D'Lo has, like, every game almost, like, not more times than not, 9 out of 10 games, D'Lo has like a third or fourth quarter where he just goes off, where he goes and gets like 6 to 8 straight points. In this game, it was 15 straight points, or not fit straight, but 15 points. And it's like, because he just needs to kind of get that feel and get that worked out. Austin Reeves is the same way, right? Like, you see Austin Reeves, he struggles. And then once he starts hitting like shots, like, then it's just like this domino effect. So you got two guys that, again, are essentially the same type of player that both need to get in rhythm. And if they don't hit their first 2 or 3 shots, then it usually takes them, 10 shots to really find that rhythm. And it's just like, we can't have two guys in the starting unit like that. Problem is, we don't have like just a pure natural scorer, right? Like, D'Lo can be a 3-level scorer, Reeves can be a 3-level scorer, Rui can go and get a bucket, right? Obviously, we have LeBron, but he's not like a natural scorer, right? Like, AD can go get a bucket, but he's not like this natural scorer, not like a Kyrie or DeMar DeRozan or Trae Young or whomever, right? Like, these guys that can just go and get buckets in a multitude of ways and consistently on a regular basis go and give you 20 a game, right? Like, you're not getting 20 a game, 25 a game from D'Lo. You're going to get like, 22, and then the next game will be 8. And then, 25, and then maybe the next game is like 22, and it's like, oh, D'Lo is trying to leave. And then, no, the next 2 games are like 8 and 11, right? Same thing with Reeves. It's like, he has like 3 terrible games. Then he has 2 games where he gives you 20 plus. And then it's like, oh, here's another like 3 terrible. It's just, you're not going to be able to survive this with that because they can't play defense, not to the level in which you need. And yes, Jared Vanderbilt, I do think would help a lot because I think he just makes up so much ground and is able to cover for these guys more than what we have right now. So like when D'Lo, misses an assignment or Reeves misses an assignment or whatever, like it's not as like detrimental because you have Jared Vanderbilt who could basically go cover that and make up the ground for you, right? So like that's kind of where the problem lies in my opinion. And I think the Lakers need to figure it out. I think it's time for a lineup change. I think Darvin Ham, I am sure he doesn't want to, right? Because, he doesn't want to kill confidence and stuff like that, right? And I'm sure that because again, there is an argument of like, well, let's just kind of ride this out. If guys start turning around, we may be really good. Or when Vando comes back, right, now everyone kind of slides over to their more natural position. And that's a roster that led us to the conference final. Like, I get you can talk yourself and argue yourself into like, okay, let's stick with what we know type thing. Let's keep the consistency. But I just think, at least for now, I think you got to try something, right? It's just, we have an 8-game sample size and it hasn't worked, right? Like, it's just, you got to figure it out. You got to make the hard call sometimes, right? Like, I get, you want consistency, but like, now is the best time to experiment and try different rotations. If you were ever going to do it now, right? And if like nothing changes, then okay, it's not the rotation, it's the actual players, right? Like where like maybe if you move Reeves and he's cooking off the bench, then that only benefits because now when the starters do go out, you got a unit that is more balanced. And I just think across the board, it's like you're better off doing it now and seeing what works than now we're 50 games in and we're just struggling and we're floating over 500 and it's like, okay, well, maybe we should change. No, like, don't get to that point. Let's try it now. So my hope is that Phoenix game that maybe, again, just maybe we get a different starting lineup than we've seen thus far. But time will tell. So anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? Do you think, like, yeah, Lakers got to do something. You got to make a move. You got to, just figure this out, change the rotation, change the lineup. However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. It helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.